All right, hello, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on organizing your formative account for next school year. We're going to talk mostly about how to clean things up, how to close things out, and how to set yourself up for success so that you can actually attempt to relax this summer, although I know most teachers love to try that and then it never ends up working out. But for today's webinar, if you like, you are welcome to follow along with me within your formative account. It is not necessary. The majority of today's webinar is going to be kind of me showing you how to do some things, giving you some recommendations on what you can do. But you are also welcome to log in and follow along with me. In order to do that, you'll want to go to formative.com and click on the login button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And then from there, you will select the best login option for you. All right, and so a little bit about myself. My name is Erin. I am a Senior Client Success Manager here with Formative. I've been here for about 2 years. I'm also a former teacher. I taught for 8 years at a middle school in Los Angeles. I taught humanities 4 years in 7th grade and 4 years in 8th grade. And I actually used Formative with my students in my classroom. And so I love being able to share kind of all of the different ideas that I have for Formative, all of the different awesome use cases that I've seen other teachers using Formative for in their classrooms as well. And so a little bit about today's webinar. This session is going to be recorded, and we will be posting this to our training center, which is probably where you signed up. This will be posted about a week after today. To the training center. So if you want to go back and rewatch and maybe toward the end of the year, see these tips again, you can access that at the training center. And as far as receiving a certificate of attendance, you will receive a survey link in your email inbox tomorrow for having attended today. So you'll be able to fill out that survey link and get your certificate of attendance. All right, so some of our objectives today, what we're going to be talking about. We're going to start off by talking about how you can close assignments in order to kind of pause new responses coming in and also preserve the responses that are there, depending on if you allow students to edit after they submit or not. We'll be talking about how to archive your classes. This is going to keep your account tidy. This is also, most importantly, going to keep student accounts tidy. We'll talk about creating folders. I'll show you how you can do that in order to organize your formatives, and also talk about sharing folders and formatives and how that might look heading into next year. But before we get started going over all of that, I do have a few questions. I'd love to take some time just to see what formative looks like as a student for you all, and also so I can do kind of a quick temperature check of how we're all doing. And this will also help me make sure that we cover everything that we want to cover and tailor it to those of you who are here today. So if you want to please, if you're already in your account, in the upper right corner, you'll see this enter code box. And if you want to enter the code KG6QBC, you can also go to app.formative.com/join. That is in the chat, and enter the code there. If you're not logged in, this will work as well. So the link and the code are both in the chat, and it is on the screen here, KG6QBC. So I'm going to go ahead and let you all do that. And I'm going to click into that formative. And what you're going to find, this formative is assigned in teacher paste mode. I know this isn't a lesson delivery or teacher paste mode webinar, but you're going to get a little taster of it right now anyway. As a teacher, when I have a formative, if I want to assign a formative to teacher paste mode, I can go to my assign window and I can select the student or the class that I want to assign it to and make sure that that teacher paste toggle is on. And then I would click assign. When I do that, it is going to automatically update It's going to automatically open up a new separate tab for me. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open that tab because I closed it earlier. It's already assigned in teacher paste mode. So I can also, we'll hide some names here, and I can open my teacher paste session here. And that's going to open up that separate window for me. So let's make sure, if you didn't get a chance, I will put that code up again. It is KG6QBC. You can enter that in at app.formative.com/join. You can also enter it from your home screen. In the upper right, there's a box that says enter code. You can pop it in there. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I've just got like 3 quick intro questions for you. All right, just want to know how your week's been going so far. We're heading toward the end. We're also in that period, maybe your school's doing testing right now. However you feel about that. But we're closing in on the end of the year. Go ahead and let me know how you're feeling so far. And we've only got 1 participant. That is okay. How are you doing? It's that kind of week. That's all right. Let's go to number 2. Next question is, how did you roster your classes in Formative? This is going to help me kind of talk a little bit about what we can do to close out the year. Did you roster your classes? And again, if you're just now joining us, I am going to repost the join information into the chat. Please join us if you haven't already. So did you create your classes manually? So did you go in and create a class, name it, add all of the students by hand? Or did you use one of our rostering options through Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or Clever? Or were your classes automatically created by your school or district? So if you haven't rostered classes yet, if you haven't used Formative yet, any of these options that you think might be helpful, we can go over them as well. If you have Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, maybe that's the option you can pick there. All right. And so finally, last question is, based on your usage of Formative so far, what types of assignments do you use Formative for? Or if you haven't used it yet, what do you anticipate you might use Formative for coming up? For entrance and exit tickets, lesson delivery and interactive presentations, independent practice, homework, quizzes, tests, exams. If there's anything else you're planning on using it for, go ahead, pop it in the show your work box right there. All right, we've got some more participants. All right, entrance and exit tickets, lesson delivery, independent practice, excellent. And what I'm going to do here, I have a few options when I'm in teacher paste mode. When I'm done collecting student information, I can either pause the lesson for students so that they can no longer respond. I can also end the session, and I can force submission, close the assignment, or switch to student paste, which I'm going to do right now. So now, if there were any questions in the past that you didn't get a chance to answer and you want to fill out right now, go for it. See in the chat here, if you're using Canvas, it's possible to use Google Classroom, but you also would have to make sure that the email addresses are the same account that the students use in Canvas. So you could also create classes manually that way. Or if you're at one of our partner schools, we will also sometimes have the ability to connect and create your classes for you. So that could be an option as well. So let's just check in. All right, we're all feeling this. It must be the testing or just getting to that time of year. I totally get it. I remember it well. All right. So now that I've got this information, let's go ahead and dive in a little bit to our cleaning up of our accounts. So I'm going to go back to my Formative account here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be looking, actually, let me go here to my presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit about closing your assignments out. And what this does is it locks students out of the formative. They can't answer it anymore. They can't change their answers anymore. And in some cases, it'll reveal their scores to students if you have it set up that way. And so what we're going to do is when we're on our dashboard, we're looking for any assignment that has that green lightning bolt next to it. That green lightning bolt tells me that that formative is open. Students see it on their dashboard, and if the settings allow them, they can go in and they can update their responses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an assignment that has that green check mark. I am going to, this social studies assignment is the one I'm going to want to close right now and show you how to do that. Now, just for reference, what students see on this screen is a student screen. They can see that assignment. This is submitted, but it tells them that it's editable so they can make changes. So as a student, I can go in, I can open up this formative, and I can still see the questions. I can still answer the questions. I can still update my answers. This is the student side, right? It is open to the student. Now, when I go back to my account, if I click on that green lightning bolt, I can click additional settings. And in those settings, it takes me to the assigned settings. I can go down here to the bottom left where the little green open toggle is. I'm going to click that and it should now say closed. And when I click out of it, I now see a red lock symbol. That lock means that it is closed. Students can no longer access it. And just to show you what that looks like for the student, let me refresh their page on their dashboard. Coming up, we will see it says submitted. You notice that editable key code is gone. And when I click on it, it now tells me at the bottom that this assignment is closed and I will no longer be able to edit it. So closing a formative is just going to prevent students from accessing that assignment anymore. And since it's the end of the year, we don't want students going back in and changing things and kind of messing with the past. So you do have to go through and do this for every formative and every class that you have. And so that may be a little time consuming, but it is going to prevent students from going in and updating their answers when you might not want them to. And so once again, if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about along the way, please feel free to pop your questions into the chat. In between topics, I will kind of pause a little bit and see if we have any questions. And so before we begin talking about our next item, I'm going to wait and see if there's anything that pops into the chat. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and start. The next thing that we want to look at is archiving your classes. And this may not be something that you want to do yet unless your school year has finished. Closing formatives, especially ones that students have already taken a while ago, that's a process that you can get started right away. Archiving classes is definitely something you're going to want to wait to do until after the school year is over and students will no longer need to access those classes. I also want to make sure to point out that you want to archive rather than delete your classes. In fact, delete is not even an initial option. You can only delete classes from the archived list. And the reason for that is we don't want you to be deleting student data unless you definitely want to delete student data. And so when we go to our classes page on your account, you will see a list of all of your classes. And depending on your rostering method, looks like most of the people here chose one of our roster synced options. So Google Classroom, Clever, or Microsoft Teams. You'll see those little icons here. Any class that you have that you want to get rid of, I can click on these two. The archive option is there. And when I click archive, it's going to double check. It is going to warn me that student scores will be hidden. This is not going to delete any student data. It is simply hiding it from your view. It's cleaning up your view for you. And you can always reverse the archive, and I'll show you how you can do that. So you can archive classes by clicking that button. You'll notice they're no longer in my list. However, if I want to see any class that I've archived, up here in the upper right, there is a toggle that says show archived. When I click on that, I will see a list of all of you can see I've had many classes in the past, all of the classes that I have archived. And if I want to restore any of them, I simply select the class and hit restore. This is also where I can permanently delete a class. And so any formatives, student data on formatives that I've assigned will no longer be saved in the system. It will delete that information. And so there we go. I will click this. And to get back to my regular classes view, I just click on the show archive toggle again, turn that off. And now I just have my list of classes. Now a little bit about auto rostered classes. If you are at a district that rosters your classes automatically through your student information system, there's a few ways to tell. One, you never created the classes in the first place. Two, on this bar right here next to these little tags, you will also see a term dates. So kind of the beginning of the term and the end of the term. Those dates will be listed. If that's what you see, and if you have auto rostered classes, those classes will be automatically archived 42 days after the end of the term. So if your term ends on May 31st, sometime in July, maybe July 12th, those classes will automatically be archived for you, and your new classes will automatically be added based on the term in your student information system. However, you can archive those classes on your own before that time, and you won't mess up anything. It'll stay archived when that 42-day period ends. But every other class that we have must be archived manually in the way I just showed you. Select the class and select archive. This is also good if you have summer school coming up, or even if you kind of have multiple terms during the school year. Let's say you use Google Classroom and every semester you make a new Google Classroom for students to join. Archiving the old Google Classroom is really helpful because that removes the class from your class list, and it also removes the class from the student's class list. So they will no longer see that class, and they will no longer see the formatives in their list. To show you that, this student that I have up here is in my Formative West Elementary School class. You can see all of the assignments here that are assigned to them. If I archive this class, it will no longer appear in my list, so I don't see that information. The formative data won't appear in my tracker anymore. And now the student, let me refresh that page. The student is also no longer going to see those formatives on their account. They're no longer going to see that class in their options to sort their formatives. And this is just really helpful because, especially going into next year, if you're not teaching the same students anymore, now that work and those classes aren't clogging up their account. So that it helps the student start on a fresh new page as well. And before I forget, I do want to refresh that class. We'll do that later. So any questions about archiving classes? Oh, one thing I wanted to show you is if you are a co-teacher on a class, what you can do is you can also remove yourself as a co-teacher. So when I select that class in this list, you can see I'm not the actual teacher, I am a co-teacher. I didn't create this class. So I could archive it. I can also simply remove myself as a co-teacher. I select the class, I click co-teach, and I can click on the X next to my name. And now I am no longer a co-teacher on that class. So I've cleaned up my account as far as my classes go. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my list of formatives. And this is going to be the big job of making sure that my formatives are organized for myself next year. I want to make sure I know where everything is. I know where I can find it. And so folders and renaming items are going to be your best friend. So what you can do is I'm going to create a folder. Do I already have this? I don't. I'm going to create a folder, not formative, my bad. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to title it 2021-2022 materials. So I have a new folder that I've created, and I'm going to move a few formatives into that folder. Let's just take these top 6 or 4. I select the formatives that I want to move into it, and I'm going to click move. I get presented with a list of all of my folders here, and I'm going to click on the folder that I want to move them to and click move. Those formatives are now going to be inside this folder. There they are. And I moved them into the wrong folder. So I meant to move in somewhere else. Let's move them. This folder is what I wanted, the unit 1 folder. So let's say these formatives were all a part of this unit for myself. I move them into this unit. And what I can do now is I can take this unit folder and I can actually move it into that larger school year folder. So you can actually nest folders within other folders to make sure that you can keep things organized. So I know everything that I used for this year is going to be in that 2021-2022 materials folder. I can break it down into units from there. I can break it down into subjects from there, but I can organize myself by nesting folders within other folders. Now, what I can also do is double check on my sharing settings. So any folder that just has the blank white folder icon, that is my folder, it's on my account and no one else's. If I see the little person icon inside of the folder, or if I see the little person icon next to the formative name, that tells me that this is a shared folder or formative. And so you can make sure that other people have the access that you want them to have. When you select a folder, you can click share, and you can either add collaborators, which will give them the ability to add formatives to this folder as well. You can make a copy of the entire folder for that teacher and send it to them. It's going to make brand new, almost like a Xerox copy for them. You can also, if you're a member of one of our partner schools, you can publish to your partner school library. Or if you are not a member of a partner school, you can also publish to our free library. When you publish a folder to the library, you're going to get to publish everything that is within that folder. So you can actually publish a bundle of formatives to the formative library so that other teachers can go search through the library and find your folder, and they can download a copy of it. So it's a great way to share resources, either just with the wider teaching community, or if you're at one of our partner schools, you can share resources within your school or team. One final thing, speaking about the end of the school year, if you already have materials that you have published, I'm going to show you here. Let's say I've already published this folder, but this new lesson has not been published yet. When I click on that share icon and publish to library, I can see here everything that's already been published, and I can also select that new lesson so that I can update my publication. And so now I can update the bundle, and you can see when it was last published, and you can click save in order to update that bundle. So if you've made any changes to the publications you've already posted, making sure that you have updated those in the library so any teacher searching for your materials can get the most updated information, we all would appreciate that. All right. Any questions when it comes to organizing yourself with folders and publishing folders? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So we do have a few minutes left, so I'm going to give some time for questions to roll in if you're curious about anything related to closing out the year or not. But I'm also going to take that time while people may be thinking of questions. I want to tell you about a few exciting updates that we have that have just launched and one that's coming up soon. So the first update I want to share with you is that you can now pause a timed formative that students are actively taking. So I showed you can pause the teacher paced mode, but one of our newest features is actually being able let me go to the total screen here. So you can actually pause the assignment while students are working, even if you're not in teacher-paced mode, so you can make sure to get the whole class's attention and let them know what you need to let them know. But this now also works if a formative is timed. So if you set a time limit, once students start, that time limit does not stop. You now have the ability to pause that time limit as well. So this is a great option for students who have time limit extensions and maybe need to finish a formative in a different class. Maybe there's a fire drill, you've got to pick up all your kids and leave, or a student has to leave class early, you can pause it just for that individual student as well. And the next item I want to tell you about is assigning formative to Google Classroom. One of the biggest requests we had was that it just posts to your classwork page and then you have to go and reorganize it. You now have the ability to post directly to a topic within your Google Classroom class. So you can help keep your formatives more organized in your Google Classroom. I'm really excited about that. And we also have coming soon, very soon, the ability to assign for our partner schools, the text-to-speech accommodation. You can turn this on for individual students so that they will be able to have text that you enter into formative read aloud for them. So this will work for most question types when any prompt that you put into the box will be read aloud. And on most of our question items, students will be able to have the answer choices read aloud for them as well with this little talking person icon up here. So that's not live yet. It is coming soon, but something we're excited about and wanted to let you know about. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I do want to address a question here in the chat. Patrick, you are an administrator. So what are you looking to create for next school year? All right, I would recommend that you reach out. If you already have a partner account, you can contact your customer success manager. If you do not yet have a partner account and you're interested in being connected with one of our sales team, I can give you that information right now. We also have more information when it comes to support for your team. In your account, there's a question mark icon in the upper right. You can contact Formative Support. You can access our training center or our help center to have any questions that you may have that you need to get answered. We've got your back. And then if you go to formative.com/pricing, and I'll put this in the chat for you, this will connect you with one of our account executives so we can help you bring formative to your school. All right, and with that, once again, if you attended, you will receive an email tomorrow in order to fill out a quick survey and get your certificate of completion. But with that said, we've covered everything on our agenda and I don't see any questions coming in. So thank you so much for joining today. I hope you found today helpful and that you're excited to close out the year and start fresh next summer. Thanks, everyone.